events in Iran, all of these events have really made us realize how susceptible we are to the forces of globalization. One example of how we are tied at the hips would be this Taiwanese company, Evergreen Marine Corp. Evergreen Marine Corp's 200,000 ton container ship got stuck in the Suez Canal for 6 days last year. And the ship is longer than the Eiffel Tower. It blocked the entire canal. So that resulted in backlogs of hundreds of other ships, costing $400 million in trade per hour, roughly. So companies were in a bind because they had already been contending with supply chains that had been stressed and strained due to delays caused by the pandemic. Or if you are looking at a car made in the US or India, the car would require spools made in China or chips made in Taiwan. Just last year, Russia imported about $672 million worth of chips from China, and about 40% of those chips were reportedly defective. And that might have factored into Russia sourcing chips from Ukraine. So if Russia blocks access to microchip materials that it has been sourcing from Ukraine, Taiwan will struggle to make these chips because they need access to important gases like neon and argon to play job, right? So if you go out there, and this also goes to phones, by the way, phones that have these chips. So if you decide to go and buy a car or a phone, you are going to see that the cost is a lot more than it used to be before. So that is the individual and personal impact of globalization. So the other side of the coin is de-globalization. And many of us are being urged to think about making critical supply chains local. Why? To reduce our reliance on other countries, to encourage domestic production, to increase national security. In the US, the CHIPS Act was signed into law about 5 months ago in August this year. The CHIPS Act, it stands for Creating Helpful Incentives to Produce Semiconductors and Science. So basically, the CHIPS Act resulted in the setup of a chip manufacturing facility in Arizona. And these guys were apprehensive. De-globalization in general is intended to strengthen competitiveness, strengthen innovation, boost domestic production, increase security, right? But labor costs are very expensive in the US. So then if you were in that landscape, and if you were working with people who are part of that decision-making process, you would have to decide, is it better to incur higher labor costs and get this chip made in Arizona? That's the price you're paying for increased security. Or is it wiser to pay cheaper rates and get the chip made in Taiwan and then run the risk of getting left in the lurch due to a knock-on effect of globalization? So that is the opportunity cost. It manifests in nearly every situation like this.